Crisis Radio. Now, as I mentioned before, we just saw the news flash across the international cable TVs that there's a 4-month bridge accord, I think a finesse, papered over, that has been agreed to by the Eurogroup of finance ministers and the Syriza finance minister for Greece, Yanis Varoufakis. But let's get it direct from the source. Let's go directly to Athens, Greece, and our very much admired political observer, Michael Chiotinis. Michael, bring us up to date now. You're right in the thick of things.
Hello, Webster. Hello to all your listeners. Europe, as it seems, has turned the page right now. I'm listening. We just watched the Eurogroup press conference, where it seems they have come to some sort of deal. I'm still processing this, but it seems that the Greek finance minister took the very least that he wanted. In effect, we're talking about a 4-month window in which we should find a way to completely reform the euro currency area, because let's be honest here, if the euro isn't reformed, it will eventually disintegrate. And every player knows this. As I have repeatedly argued, no one can afford the breakup of the euro. Okay, least of all Germany and the banking cartel running the German government and most of Europe. They cannot afford to lose the euro. Right now, the euro being the most effective tool and leverage for hegemony over Europe. On the other hand, this same oligarchy cannot allow any other policy than austerity, because, as we all know, the banking system is bankrupt. We live under bankruptocracy, as often said, and these are the two opposite forces. Something had to give in. Either they would give in to a policy other than austerity, or they would break up the euro. And as I have repeatedly argued, they wouldn't break up the euro. And we see exactly that right now. Varoufakis took a very small win, but a significant win, in effect opening the door, window through which real reform can be done. The main thing is that this blackmail, as he said, that was set up by the previous government, has officially failed. They tried to squeeze the new government into coming to a deal, an austerity, continuation of the austerity under tight time limits. But this blackmail has officially failed, and that's what Varoufakis is saying right now. I'm watching him making his press announcements right now.
Yes, I that was what I thought too. That it's a kind of a finessing of the problem, right? It doesn't really decide anything permanently, but it is a concession extracted from Schäuble. And what you say, of course, about Merkel is the front one for a banking cartel, right? In previous years, the big thing on Merkel was that she's a creature of Josef Ackermann, who is the head of Deutsche Bank, this very large German institution, and they're the ones who are pushing this stuff and benefit from it. The only thing I might also say is that the euro, of course, also is beneficial for German companies that make things, right, be it Siemens or Volkswagen or whatever it is. In other words, there's an element of industrial capitalism there too, but in terms of what comes onto Merkel's wheelhouse, it's the Deutsche Bank. Now, I understand we already have ultra-lefts who are complaining that Varoufakis is not militant enough, and I would simply say, the old saying is, reculer pour mieux sauter. You take one step back, and then you're ready to jump forward. And that's what I see with this. This is going to give us 4 months of organizing, and maybe the situation will change, and maybe something positive will emerge on the horizon.
And no more austerity. They have agreed to keep things under a balanced budget, but not the 4.5% surpluses that was promised by the previous government, but a balanced budget. For now, we'll keep it balanced, but the reforms that will be agreed upon will be announced on Monday. And the thing is, we have an agreement before the Greek government announces the reforms. So we're talking about the reforms that the Greek government wants, that the Greek electorate wants, not the reforms, not the neoliberal reforms we're used to. So they're going to make the case that the Troika is alive, and we're going to inspect policy implementation in Greece. But actually, these institutions, the IMF and the European Commission, will inspect if the Syriza program is going to be implemented correctly in Greece. Not.
Let me just add, when reform, this is the big thing, right? Normally, when a banker says reform, he means stripping you of your rights and ripping you off. The Syriza idea of reform is something like a massive offensive against oligarchs for non-payment of taxes, right? Tax evasion, and that includes flight capital, because the way you do tax evasion is you send it to some offshore paradise for tax evaders, precisely.
Yes, and the most important, I think, is rolling back all the changes in labor law, labor legislation. In other words, workers' rights. We'll give all the old work, we will reinstitute all the old legal arrangements for workers. And that's real reform. It's not a counter-reform as we used to the last 4 years.
And as I understand it, that includes no hire and fire society, right? Not the American model where you have absolutely no rights and you can be fired for no reason from 1 minute to the next. Things like national contracts, legal status for the unions, and other benefits. And there was the whole array of anti-worker, anti-union measures that have been brought in, would seemingly be now off the table.
Yes, and rolled back effectively.
All right. Well, you pointed us towards the question of a new president, a new head of state in this somewhat symbolic but nevertheless important position. Is there anything new on that front?
It is an important position. We have a new president. He has been voted. He's Prokopis Pavlopoulos. He was a minister of Interior Affairs for all of Karamanlis government. So the flirting with the Karamanlis
faction, sure.
Yes, is as I have told before. As I have said before, we have this flirting between these two sides, and he's actually the most anti-IMF conservative politician that we have seen, and he has done certain very important things. I can't go into this right now, but he's a good choice because it brings stability. That's my view. And as I said, he's flirting with the Karamanlis clique to maybe break up the Conservative Party, which in polls is disintegrating anyway.
Right. The latest we have here is that 80% of the Greeks support the Syriza government, and you did indeed point us to this idea of Karamanlis. Anything else that we need to cover this week?
We'll know more next week.
Okay. We'll be back next week. Please mark your engagement calendar. Michael Chiotinis in Athens, who's got quite a following here in the U.S., we now find out. See you in a minute on World Crisis Radio.